So let me put recording now. If you wish to not be part of the recording, please just turn off your camera. This will be posted to our YouTube channel afterwards. And welcome to another Tequeria event. Our goal is to just drive more resources and support for Latinx community. And today we're focusing on engineering managers. But if you are just thinking about getting there one day, this is still the place for you to be at. Join the fun. Make sure that you are muted unless you're speaking. Please unmute yourself. If you feel comfortable, please open up your camera. We want to see your faces. Zoom is pretty great now, so feel free to drop in any reactions as people are speaking. If something resonates with you, let us know, and we want to hear. And let's stay in touch with the conversation on the chat. I just want to remind everyone that this is a safe space for us all. So please respect our code of conduct as well. This is the longer unacceptable behavior, but the short end is just respect each other. Let's celebrate and uplift each other today. And stay tuned at the end for some raffle prizes. We have some pretty cool things coming up. I definitely want to buy some of these myself, especially that little mug. It's going to come in so handy. It's going to replace this little mug over here. And a big thank you to everyone who took part of this event. This was a combined effort between Tequeria and Asana. So shout out to everyone who did that. And jumping over to Asana, Nadia, take it away.
Sure. So hi, everyone. Hopefully I've virtually met some of you before at our other events at Tequeria, but my name is Nadia Abozaid and I work on the talent team at Asana. Super excited to be with you today and mostly to spotlight our amazing engineers as you are all on your journey into engineering management. But just to tell you a little bit about Asana as an introduction, Asana's mission is to help humanity thrive by enabling the world's teams to work together effortlessly. And we really believe that teams working together with clarity helps them accomplish incredible things. So right now, Asana has over 80,000 customers that we're helping to drive with success. And next slide, the way that we are able to do this is really to focus on building a great collaborative culture internally. So I've been at Asana for about 9 months now. I think Asana's culture is something really special, and you'll hear more about that from our engineers in a minute. But we are excited to build an amazing organization and a growing organization. And right now we have over 1,000 employees in 10 countries, and we're continuing to expand. So if you have any questions about Asana, definitely feel free to ping me or to ping my colleague Greg, who's also on this chat, so we can get in touch. And with that, I'll turn it back to the team so we can get to the good stuff.
Yeah, so you heard us speak way too much already. So now we're going to jump into breakout rooms so that you can have a chance to connect with other people here today. So just for you all who are new to Zoom, there's going to be a little pop-up that comes up. You just have to click join group, and then you'll be able to join. And you'll have a conversation to chat with people there in a smaller group. So we do encourage you to turn on your audio or to unmute yourself and turn on your camera. And take a screenshot of this. We're going to go away for 10 minutes. Make sure you share just a quick introduction, your name, your gender pronouns, where you're from, and what are you doing today? So your role in your company. And the question is, what piqued your interest in engineering management? So take a screenshot. We're going to prepare all the breakout rooms right now. Nadia, I can't see the breakout rooms from my end. You have access to sending people.
I will send everyone to breakout rooms.
Thank you. This is where we can have some cool music in the background. You know, technical difficulties for the day.
I've got you, Sal.
Oh, thank you. All right. For those of you still in the space, make sure you click accept and you'll be sent to a breakout room.
Thanks, Sal. Yeah, and thanks to everyone for joining us today. And special thanks to Denise and Dan for offering to share their experiences and advice with us. To start, I think we're just going to do some quick intros for those of us who, or for those of you who didn't get to know us during the breakout rooms. And so we'll just start with name, pronouns, your role at Asana, your hometown, and then your favorite food. And I can start. So my name is Luis Alvarez. My preferred pronouns are he, him, his. I am a software engineer at Asana for a little under 2 years. I think in 2 weeks, it'll be my 2-year anniversary, which is exciting. I'm originally from the Bay Area, from a town called South San Francisco, if you're familiar with the region. And my favorite food is, well, my mom's from El Salvador, so at parties, we usually have these like panes con pavo, and I can like eat like 10 of them. They're so good. But yeah, and so now I guess pass it off to Denise.
Thank you, Luis. Hi, everyone. My name is Denise Carolina Videta. My pronouns are she, hers. I am an engineering manager at Asana. I am originally from Caracas in Venezuela, and my favorite food is risotto. I would say mushrooms risotto, but any risotto will make it. All of them are great. Dan, do you want to take it over?
Risotto, I will. Yeah, risotto is such a great choice. My name is Dan, he, him. I'm an engineering manager at Asana, supporting the dev efficiency team, helping make our developers and our engineers as fast and efficient as possible. My favorite food is probably just a really good cheeseburger and some French fries. And I'm coming from Brooklyn, New York.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for the intros, both of you. Yeah, so just to start, I just want to say when I was asked to moderate this chat, I was like very excited. I've been an engineer at Asana for about 2 years, an engineer in general for about 3. And I'm starting to get the question, like, where do you see yourself in 5 years? And to be very honest, I like don't know, but I've always been interested in like the engineering management track. So just to begin, I'd love to like know what drove your interest in transitioning to engineering management. Like what was your path to get there? Were there any other paths that you considered? I just love to like hear your journey. And yeah, Dan, I'd love to start with you.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Luis. That can be a scary question at times. What do you want to do in 5 years? For me, the path was, it was interesting in some ways. I was working at a smaller startup. We were really one team that had one stand-up and enough engineers you could just kind of tell each other what you were doing. And as we started growing, we kind of split up into 2 teams. And I had kind of had questions about like, you know, we're a small startup, but how are decisions made? How are we prioritizing things? And the CTO at the time, that was a part of that small team, tagged me in to say, hey, why don't you try this thing on called technical leadership? You can be a tech lead of this other team. And after doing that for some time, I realized it was combining like people skills, I suppose. I love people and tech skills. And as much as I love tech, I found myself really moving in the direction where the fulfillment I was getting day to day was in helping my teammates around me, helping them solve problems, helping them merge code, more than I was excited about the pull request that I was putting on myself. And I kind of made sure that my manager knew that I was interested in engineering management. And after some number of months and years, that position became available, and I was able to stumble my way into it. But that was my path.
I'm gonna tag with what Dan said about working with people. That's one of the biggest things for me to being an engineering manager is I like working with people. I like to solve problems. I like to organize things, make things happen. So I started as an individual contributor, similar to what Dan was describing in terms of the journey. And I was an engineering contributor working in a backend software engineer at USAA in Texas. And then after a couple of years, I moved to the Bay Area. And I joined Guidewire, where I pretty much went through all my journey to get into engineering management. I continued as an IC for a couple more years. And then I also was approached by my manager at the time. There is a tech lead position, and I was, yes, I still get to code, that's what I'm going to do. So I was a tech lead for a performance team. And while I was doing that, then there was an opportunity to me to become a tech lead manager, which means I'll continue to do tech lead as a half-time. And then I had 3 reports for myself. And I still remember telling my manager, do you guarantee me that I'm not going to give up coding yet? That's my thing there. And that's what I did. But then after a few years as a tech lead manager, I realized that I really, really like working with people and helping people and solving problems. So I moved into a full-time manager position 6 years ago. At some point, I did have the opportunity to maybe do a product manager role. And I'm also product oriented. I really like that part. But then I realized I'm not going to get to work with people as much as I will if I'm an engineering manager. So I decided to go engineering manager is what I like. And I feel it's like solving puzzles or challenges every day, because every person is very unique. They bring up new things for you to solve. And it's just teaching me every single day. And it's just very motivating for me.
That's awesome to hear. I really enjoy kind of like piecing together the similarities between both of your experiences and seeing kind of what drives you to be engineering managers. Kind of like reflecting a little more about your current role as engineering managers, I'd love to like for you to speak on like what your greatest challenge as an engineering manager was, and kind of to add on top of that, how did you overcome that? And I'd love to start with Denise this time.
Yeah, thank you, Luis. I think in terms of challenges, the one that I guess sticks the most for me is accepting that it was okay not knowing all the answers. Like when I was an IC, I used to ask my manager for answers. I could Google something. If I was coding something, I could write an automation test that would tell me when my code was ready, when things were working as I was expecting. But when you become a manager, you don't have all the answers. And it is totally okay to just say, I don't know that yet. I'm going to get back to you. So that's something that at the beginning was really intimidating for me, because I felt like I needed to have all the answers at all times. So in terms of how did I overcome that a little bit, I learned how to use my peer groups. Like other engineering managers are here for you. Peers promote peers. They are likely having a similar situation that the one that you're going through. So they'll be happy to either tell you how they did or help you brainstorm how can you do that. And then also make sure to attend any manager training, webinars, office hours, things that are available for you. You're likely going to find someone that helps you find that answer that you're looking for. Dan?
I can't plus one that part enough. I think it's so crucial to be able to kind of find your find your peers, find your peer group, find the people that you can reach out to and connect with, and learn that like this thing is hard and different, and there will be wins and kind of losses along the way. There's something else you mentioned, Denise, that really resonated with me, that was really similar to probably the first real challenge that I felt, the first real difference that I felt. I think you mentioned like turning tests from red to green. And I remembered as a software engineer, like you kind of saw what was on like your sprint board or your Kanban board, and you moved tickets from left to right. And I felt good. I felt like I had feedback loops that told me that like, I'm doing pretty good at this. When I moved into the people track, the feedback loops just got longer. It was no longer half a day or a day before I found out whether things were working or not. Sometimes it would be months before figuring out whether a project landed or not. Sometimes it might be many months, half years. You never really know whether your advice or your guidance, your coaching, your mentorship is going to stick or not. I think what I ended up approaching, or what I ended up kind of evolving, was, I don't know, maybe a somewhat simple framework, maybe a fairly optimistic framework. But when I really didn't know if I was making a difference or not, I would lean into like every positive signal I could take. If something seemed like I might have made a positive impact on this, I would do my best to celebrate it. And anything negative that came through, and lots of negative signals came through, I would just do my best to learn from it. Just know that I would get another try at that sort of challenge.
Cool. Yeah. Thanks both for sharing that, like that information. That's super helpful as someone who's like considering the like people management track and really loves the like immediate feedback loops that I get with tests. That's really incredible and something to definitely consider. Yeah, I think for the next question, I'd be really interested to know more about like impact as an Edge manager. At Asana, I know impact is something we just talk about a lot, and I'm sure at other companies too. And so as an Edge manager, how do you like best drive impact? And I'd love to look at it from the lens of like for your team and for the company as a whole. And yeah, Dan, I'd start with you for this one.
Yeah, thanks. I think one of my favorite parts about being at Asana is almost exactly what you laid out. Like, it is so much about impact. And as an engineering manager, I get the chance to help others increase their own impact. And that's a lot of what I spend my days doing. So a lot of that is really, I do my best to focus on the long term over the short term. And I'm lucky that Asana is in a nice place where we can do that. And in doing that, I'm doing my best to help make sure that I am not necessarily solving the technical problems myself, but helping my teammates, helping the engineers I'm supporting get better at solving the technical problems they see now and that they're going to see in the future. So I am constantly trying to help reflect with them, help them kind of reason out different technical decisions and trade-offs they might make, and then working with them to look back after they've made one to see, like, what have they learned? What do they want to apply next time? And how can they grow from there? So I get to think about the long term a lot.
Now that you're speaking about team and then how to look at long term, I think one of the things that I focus a lot is on team building and team health. The way I see it is you'll normally see teams are doing a good job when they feel connected, when they feel like they're bonding together, they're stronger together, especially nowadays that we are all working remotely. I can say the majority of my team joined, including myself, joined my team in the last 6 months. So most of us have not seen each other. So one of the things that I was reflecting with my team is, how do we feel that connection? How do we feel that we belong to the team? So one of the things that I'm doing actually, which is really fun, is I organize an event that I'm calling How I Got Here with my team. So each one of us has 15 minutes to talk about your journey. Where did you come from? What did you do? How did you get to Asana and where you are? And that's been just helping the team keep like feeling more motivated and willing to work together. And that actually falls into the another category, which is being accountable. Like I'm really organized person, and I like to follow up with action items. And to do that, I need to make sure that me and my team feel accountable for what we do. I just listen for the details. I hear what the team is saying. I run the retros in the team, and when I hear there is an opportunity, I just write it down, and then I make sure that is someone assigned, and then there is someone that is accountable for doing that. And that helps, that accountability as a team helps just making sure we're all in the same boat. I recognize when I don't do a good job, they recognize when they don't do a good job, and then we're all here together. So team health and team building is really good. And last piece, when you say about Asana, I think we have a really good community of engineering managers at Asana, and I feel like we have a lot of moments where we share and we can talk and we can brainstorm. So there are a lot of opportunities where it's like, oh, I'm running into this, or I found this situation, or I found this opportunity. I'm on a peer group with my teams about engineering manager onboarding opportunities, and it's just fun to try to solve problems together, not just with your direct team, but then also with your peers that will have more impact at your org level, at the engineering level.
I can't agree more. It was one of the reasons why I joined Asana. I was looking for a larger peer group that would understand some of the problems I was seeing. And it's been really incredible finding that in so many ways at Asana.
Cool. Yeah, thanks so much for sharing. Yeah, I think that's like really applicable to like my role as like a IC as well at Asana. And kind of like now that I'm hearing you both talk, I have a way larger appreciation for my own engineering manager and kind of like all that they do for the team as well. Yeah, so thanks for both for sharing. Yeah, I think this next question I'd love to ask to Denise. Denise, like something that personally is like very important to me is my ability to bring my whole self to work. Even though like most of my days aren't spent like shared with people who share the same experiences as me or look like me or have that kind of identity. I know that you're, as a Latina Eng manager, I know you're also part of a small group of peers. How has this impacted your kind of career?
Thank you for the question, Luis. This is something that the way I think about this has changed through the years. Like if you could ask me this question 5 years ago, I would say I used to be really upset and sad by just being the only one. I remember being in meetings and then counting how many women are next to me, how many Latinas are next to me, how many managers are next to me. And when I tried to count how many of all together, it was only one, and that's me. That's what that's how the picture was long time ago. And then I realized that I was focusing my energy on the wrong thing because I was trying to look for people like me in the same setup. So that changed, and I now changed my mindset to look for communities out there and for other people, for other places where I can find more people that brings the same diversity that I have. So I found communities like this one, Tequeria is one of them, Latinas in Tech is another one. And I start feeling more motivated because I know there are more out there, but I wasn't looking on the right place. And fast forward to now, I see a lot of changes from tech companies. More companies are paying a lot more attention to this. They're actually giving you a seat at the table. You can actually see yourself seeing more people like this community on your work environment. You don't need to be looking outside. I get to participate in events like this. At my previous company, I was able to create employee resources group. And that just demonstrates me that there is an opportunity and a step forward. And I'm still the only one, but that means to me that it puts me in a really unique situation because I'm in a position that I can show what it means to be a Latina engineering manager. And if I bring myself to work, my authentic self to work, I can actually lead some changes. So I'm sure I'm not going to be the only one in a short time. And I really appreciate being in this position. So thank you for that question, Luis.
Yeah, of course. No, thank you for sharing. Yeah, I think like this type of conversation, this type of open dialogue is so important. Just for people, like a lot of people in this group who want to see that representation, who want to like feel like they're not the only people in the room. And so yeah, that's awesome. Thanks so much for sharing that. Yeah, so kind of like talking more about like your experience as an Eng manager. And personally, like what's the most fulfilling thing that you've experienced at being an Eng manager? Like what's something that really like has been just like such an awesome experience or has like filled you with so much joy? And Dan, let's kick it off to you.
Sure. Thanks, Luis. I think for me, the most fulfilling part is seeing the people on my team thriving and growing, reaching beyond themselves and becoming the engineers that they want to be. This could look like an engineer taking on new responsibilities. It could look like somebody on my team getting celebrated, maybe getting celebrated at the department or org level, or really being able to take on a challenge that they didn't necessarily think they could do when they started off and really seeing it through. I was a part of a retrospective about this very shaky roller coaster of a project one time. And I had an engineer in the room use the phrase, like, I didn't think we could do that. And I am so happy to see that like we have accomplished that. They didn't think it was possible. I think I've kind of been chasing that ever since, to be in retrospectives, to be in rooms with engineers that are amazed by what they've accomplished.
I'm gonna echo you, Dan, on the celebration part and being able to see how people are accomplishing. I think a couple of things here is seeing how my team's accomplishments are being recognized when someone comes and say, that's a great job that your team did, or that you see the team being celebrated when they launch a tier 1 product, when they have their quality bars are really good, then that reflects on you. And that's just motivating to know people are all doing a really good job on your team. And then recognizing to me is a key piece. It's an energy boost. Like you need to be recognized, you get you going. It's just motivation. And with the part of impacting someone's career, I see it on promotions. When I get to promote someone, that is just really a fun experience. You enjoy the process of delivering that message, telling the people you did a great job. This is why we're recognizing your work. We're moving you to the next level. And this is how you're going to accomplish the next level above. So it's like working with them constantly and then just delivering this news, like you've been promoted, is just a nice feeling. And also, I'm going to close with receiving positive feedback about the things that I promote. Sometimes it's easy to oversee what engineering managers are doing because it's the work of engineering managers. So having to hear from someone directly, oh, that thing that you did, it was actually really good. Thank you for doing that. That also gives me that motivation.
Great, cool. Yeah, this conversation is filling up spot on your team. I'd love to. I'm just kidding. I love my eng manager. He's great. I guess just one last question before we open it up for Q&A. As someone who's potentially interested in engineering management, even more so after this awesome conversation that we've been having, what's one key piece of advice that you would give to like other engineering managers or other aspiring engineering managers that you wish you knew before you started your job?
I can take it on.
Awesome.
The power of delegation, letting go to grow. That's something that I learned late in the process of being a manager. When I was an individual contributor, I was used to do a lot of things in my own. I could do everything that it was like everything that was assigned to me. I knew how to control myself. I knew what I needed to do. But when you take on a manager role, your responsibilities changes, and you are not supposed to be taking everything that you used to plus what your new manager role activities or duties are. So I learned that by delegating and by understanding that for you to grow, you need to let go. So that's the only way you can learn into this is now me as a manager. I was okay doing everything else when I was at IC. Now I'm a manager. I get to do new things that I don't know how to do and things that I'm going to be learning. And that doesn't happen overnight. It is hard. It takes a little while to understand when to delegate, but that's the only way you can allow your team to grow and then also expand your own impact.
I love that, Denise. Like giving away your Legos, let other people build on top of the things that you've been building. I think one thing that I find myself, I guess, trying to get better at all the time, as I ironically struggle with it right now, is communication. So the piece of advice I would give to anybody that is thinking about engineering management is you will never run out of space in which to improve as a communicator. I think the biggest thing I found as an engineering manager, and the biggest thing I was kind of surprised at is I'd always heard that as a communicator, you need to market what you want to do. You need to market what you want your team to be, the culture you want it to be. You need to repeat yourself many times. And I was still surprised as I would communicate and tell my team certain things that some things just would not get done. And at first this was frustrating, but I think the advice that I would give myself is to reflect on the communication, think about who you're communicating with and the people that you're communicating with. They're coming to those conversations with their whole selves, ideally. And they're going to hear things and think about things very differently than you do. So try and think about how to reach and connect with those people. It'll always help make you a better communicator.
Great. Thank you both so much for answering all the questions that I had. I think we have around like 9 minutes for some Q&A, so I'd love to open it to the group to see if anyone has any questions they'd like to ask.
Yeah, I can go ahead to you. We can. Cool. Hi, my name is Victor. I'm here in Mexico, and I just moved I was living in Brooklyn and Boston before, and I just moved back to Mexico. And I found an opportunity here in Mexico as a tech manager, engineering manager. No, it's a new startup. So I am the first engineering manager in the company, and what I was doing before it was the CTO and co-founder of the company. So the role is kind of similar, but I don't have another way to compare my job. So my job for you guys is my question for you guys. Sorry, it's How do you know that you're doing a good job, and how do you ask for feedback? Because since I am the first one, I don't want to. Uh, I don't know. I don't want to do a good job. So far, my manager and all my peers are saying I'm doing a good job, but I feel I don't want to look to the wrong spot. You know, maybe there is a blind spot over here, and I'm not paying attention to it. So how do you know you're doing a good job as a manager, and how do you ask feedback?
I can give it a try. I would say start by defining what your role is. Start by talking to your manager or the organization. What is the expectation for an engineering manager? When you know what the expectation is and you have write it down, what are the different skills that you should be doing, what are your different responsibilities of the role, then it's easier to ask for feedback. Because if you are the one that is supposed to be running sprint meetings and you're not doing that, but it's written down, then you're not doing a good job. But if you are setting up your team goals and that's part of your role and everyone is executing the goals correctly as the metric said, then you're doing a good job. As long as you know what is expected from your role is something that you can ask specific feedback about what are your different role competencies.
I think that's great. I think that's really great. I think it's a unique challenge to be in, to be able to figure out whether you're doing well when you are a one of one, as you mentioned. The like yes, and I would add on to Denise's is when you are looking for feedback and looking to your team and asking like how you can be better, kind of take that rubric that like Denise recommended coming up with, pick like one of those bullet points and go to your team and ask like, how can I be 10% more effective at doing blank? How can I go from being, let's say I'm an 8 right now, what would being a 10 look like? I find that it can be difficult sometimes to get feedback from people that are on your team, that they generally want to make you happy. There's an odd power dynamic you need to account for. And if you're able to kind of ground the questions in a more third person sort of way, you're able to get better feedback out of that. So that'd be my little footnote onto Denise's excellent suggestion.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
Great.
Let's call on JD next.
Hello. My question was, how do you know when you're ready to step into management?
I can start off with this one. What a great question. I wish that I had like the perfect sentence and the perfect thing to give you so that you would know right now, or you would not know, or you could pass that advice on to anybody else. For me, the thing that I wanted to know that I could rely on my technical background to empathize with my engineering team, and that I would be able to build off of that as a solid foundation toward the people track. So that was like the last sort of check for me. That's the last thing that I was looking at. I wanted to make sure that I had gotten enough technical experience where I could really hear out my engineers' ideas, be able to give them advice and help them feel like they could grow. Denise, I'm kind of curious to hear like what's your criteria? How do you think about this?
I think that's actually a great base for me or my journey as an engineering manager is to be able to come from that IC track, because that's what I used to do. So it puts me in the same spot. I know what they're talking about because I went through that. But I think to answer your question about how did I know I was ready, I think knowing that people trust you, it is something really important. If people respect your work, if people trust what you say, your opinions, your ideas, plus your deliverables, then that means they know that you can do a good job no matter what the job is. And if you have challenges, they know and they trust you, you know how to solve it. You know how to look up for the help that you need to get you in the right path. But trust is such a great skill that you need to have in your toolbox to make sure that people feel comfortable having you as a manager.
Yeah, thank you. Really awesome answers.
Cool. It looks like Karina has a question. Karina, would you like to ask your question? I'm also happy to read it out if that's preferred.
Can you guys hear me? Okay.
Oh,
Now?
yeah.
Okay, I was having problems with my AirPods. My
Of
question
course.
is more so, what things you did to prepare when you knew you were going to take that step towards an engineering manager, whether it's schoolings, mentorship through someone that you knew in your network, what things you did to prepare?
I can start. Having mentors is really important, and especially when you're onboarding in a new place. I think having a mentor that helps you go through onboarding and getting yourself situated is really important. But before you get to that position of being able to look up for something new or a next role in a new company or the next role in your current company, I think it is important for you to look for resources. I've attended webinars. I attend a couple of after school classes, like continuous education classes that I've taken, podcasts, participating in reading what others are writing in blog posts. This just looking for guidance. And then I have one person. She's not my mentor formally, but that's someone that I admire a lot. She's a director of engineering, and I saw her at a conference once, and I reached out on LinkedIn. She had no idea who I was. I was like, "Hey, I saw you in this talk. I really admire what you say. It resonates with me. Are you able to have 15 minutes for a chat?" And that's what I did. And I talked to her. This was maybe 4 or 5 years ago. And since then, occasionally I just reach out to her. I went to a manager's circle training that Takeria organized last year. And I did that with her. And it's been just great to have someone to look up for, someone to learn from. But if you have the possibility to have a mentor, or that's something that I really advise.
That's awesome. What a great idea. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Okay, I
have
can
a
add
question.
in one quick.
I have a question. How many of you guys have read the 2-Minute Manager book? Never heard of it? Okay. So when I was at Hewlett Packard Enterprise, the chief sales officer was doing something really, really amazing with a group. It was a bunch of us that got chosen as ambassadors. So he was like trying to get to know us, and I noticed how he was relating to people and the way he connected everyone's story to be into one. And I just really admire him. His name is Phil Davis. He's now with AWS as the managing director in the APJ. So he's big time over there. But I asked him for book recommendations, and one really cool story is that he recommended me the 2-Minute Manager. And not only did he do that, but he mailed it to me and did a handwritten, note on the book and said, "This is what I like." So I really enjoyed that book, and so just wanted to know if you guys haven't read it, then there goes my recommendation. So that's it.
Thanks so much. Dan or Denise, do you have anything to add to that? Cool. Well, yeah, Hector, thank you so much. I think the next person in the question queue is Orion. Orion, would you like to unmute yourself to ask your question?
Sure. Actually, well, yeah, my questions are wrote down, sorry. What's the balance? I think it's sort of related to the training question. Like how much of management at an organization like Asana is sort of prescribes standard practices for all teams versus individual style, and how much is standard versus individualized?
I can start. The engineering manager organization at Asana is really strong, but at the same time, really flexible. So there are some practices that we all follow the same, coming from people manager aspects as engineering practices in particular, but we also have a lot of flexibility into what we come up for, what is specific for our teams. We have that opportunity. We have different groups. We actually have manager circles. We just started work with them, which is like managers from different organizations within the engineering org from different pillars getting together, talking about new ideas, talking about different topics and challenges. So it allows us to help each other see what is best for our team. But at the same time, as an individual manager style, I get to put a lot of my own flavor to things. One example I'll give you is I took into revamping a lot of the sprint meetings that my team had, and now I run retros. And for instance, retros, I start with kudos and recognition, and we end with action items. That's something that I added my flavor to. So we do have that flexibility to bring up our experience and share with others as well.
Yeah, I would definitely echo that. It's at Asana, it feels like there's a lot of room to be able to be the engineering manager you want to be, and at the same time, it's very people focused on the engineers themselves. Like what should be really consistent throughout the Asana experience as an engineer. So I think that it's a nice mix of the prescription with a lot of room to be able to be creative and be your own engineering manager.
Thanks both for that answer. I think next in our question queue is Angelica. Angelica, would you like to unmute yourself? I'm also happy to read the question out if it's preferred. Okay, Adam, would you like to ask a question?
Sure, yeah. The question was for really Denise, because you mentioned that you also thought about product management and being a product, manager. I just really wanted to maybe if you could make some distinguishment of like what an engineering manager does and what product manager might do. I'm from like definitely a small organization, so that line kind of gets blurred. And maybe what you found like appetizing about engineering management and what you found unappetizing about product management. Thanks.
I'm gonna try to do justice for products in the room. So sorry if I don't do a good job explaining what product management is. Product management mostly are in charge of deciding what it needs to be built, to understand what the customers are asking for, understanding what the business should be working on or focusing their energies so they get more value. So they will tell you, we need to build this feature. We need to build this set of features within specific areas of your product. We need to expand this capability or these other things. Whereas engineering managers are in charge of the execution and having a team that will execute on what the product has said. So engineering said, this is how we're going to build what the product has said. I want this. So it's a collaboration. It's a collaboration between engineering management, product management, and I'm also going to add design to that, because designers were going to tell what will be the experience. So it's a lot of collaboration between, it's a triangle, the way I like to describe it. And in terms of why did I choose engineering management versus product management, is because with engineering management, you get to work with people, you get to have a team with you that you're going to help, as we were talking earlier about career growth, helping your team execute on. And that's what it feels more motivated for me, given that I also have an engineering background and I used to be an IC myself. Dan, anything to add in terms of product?
I think that was really well-rounded. I think like that triangle is something that sticks in my mind all the time whenever I'm talking about product and engineering together.
Cool. Thank you for the answers.
Great. We're going to run it back to Angelica's question now. And Angelica would love to know, did you ever have to deal with imposter syndrome in your role as a manager?
I can start off here. Yes. And I still do. I think I tend to feel it mostly when I'm taking on a new challenge, whether I'm stretching myself or trying out something new for the first time. And so I certainly felt it as a new engineering manager. I think I was very fortunate that early on, I was able to connect with different mentors, connect with my manager, and got lots of positive affirmation that like I was moving in the right direction, that this would get easier if you keep going and keep learning from what you're doing. Maybe just another recommendation to like, grow out not just your peer group, but grow out like your mentor group, so that you have people that you can bounce ideas from that can keep pushing you and driving you forward when you're feeling some doubts.
I'm going to echo on the affirmations part. I think it's really important when you don't know something to ask, especially when you're moving to a new company. Even if you've been a manager for some time, getting to know the new processes for your company specific, it is really important for you to get that confirmation that you're doing a good job, because often you're going to think, am I doing it right? Am I giving justice to my team? And the only way you can know that what you're doing is right is by asking for feedback and by asking to confirm what you're trying to do and what you're assuming it is right based on your past experience.
Perfect. And so we have time for one more question. And so I think the last question will be asked by Israel. Israel, do you want to unmute yourself to ask?
Yeah, I would love to. And I think this is a question that is a little bit, maybe I'm getting ahead of myself. But now that you're here, because this is something that most of us struggle to actually even get to, but what's after that? Like now that you're there and you see the new horizon, what's after that? What's your career path after this current position?
The way I see it is engineering management is a very wide field. You can specialize yourself into multiple areas. You can continue to grow on being an engineering manager that is more hands-on and continue to be coding with your team if that's the thing that you like to do, and there is a space to do that. There is an opportunity for you to grow as a manager of managers. Then you can continue to grow as having multiple teams but having managers that report to yourself. You have an opportunity to then maybe lead or be a director level or lead an entire organization. I think if you like to continue in the engineering manager track, which is at least what I do, is to how can I improve my skills and open up my scope as an engineering manager, continue to help people, but maybe to the team level, maybe taking more scope, but always working with people and solving engineering problems.
I love that. I think I've got just a really similar approach. It's just there's so much you can do as an engineering manager, so many different directions you could take it. I think for me, I really love growing leaders down the technical track, growing leaders down the people track. I think just continuing to do that, continuing to help mentor those that I've worked with in the past, and maybe start to figure out patterns within that, like what are the frameworks that I'm using, how can I document this, how can I write this down and share with the wider audience. I think that's something that I'm really passionate about continuing to do.
Thank you so much. Oh, sorry. I just want to say thank you so much, Dan and Denise. This is a really inspiring conversation, and I'm sure a lot of people echo or this similar sentiment. Thank you for sharing your experience and advice.
Thanks, Louise.
Thank you for the invitation.
Yeah, thank you all. This is great. I'm not an engineer, but I kind of want to be an engineer now. So thank you for that inspiration. Just to go back into the agenda a little bit, we're going to have a little networking breakout session for 10 minutes, and then we're going to come back and share a few reflections. I just want to point out that we do have some really cool prizes at the end, but you have to stay until the end. So your name might have already been chosen, maybe or maybe not. So, but you'll find out and you have to be present. So take a screenshot of this screen. These are the 2 questions for the next breakout session. The first one is, what is a trait that the most effective EM would have you've worked with? I can't read today. take a screenshot and maybe y'all can talk about it during your breakout session. Let's see, Nadia, are we ready to go?
We are good. Everyone should
Perfect.
have an invite now into a room.